Thank you for tuning in and welcome to The Real Room. This is Real Talk Live. If you are joining us for the first time, my name is Colanda.
This is Stanley.
And we are continuing our Ask the Pastor series. And tonight we have a very special guest. Stanley, I'm going to let you introduce our special guest.
Our special guest he's the pastor of City of Hope Ministries here in Jacksonville, Florida. We have known him for a while. We remember when he was just Elder Brown, and then he became
Elder
Brown. Now he's Superintendent Brown.
That's enough of that. All right.
That's right. I'm sorry. That's right.
Climbing up the ladder. But no, he's definitely one of the real ones here in the city. Awesome ministry on the north side of Jacksonville. If you are in that area looking, for a place of worship, City of Hope Ministries is definitely where it's at. And he's here joining us tonight. And I'm excited, looking forward to hearing what he has to share with us tonight in regards to our topic. So welcome, Pastor Brown. And shout out.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you very much. Now, I wonder if it'll be the same way after I leave. So thank God for that. Appreciate all of you. Thank God for all of you.
So we're going to jump right into it, Stanley. So why is sexual sin such a big deal? And I feel like we talk about, well, first of all, if this is your first time tuning in, we do talk a lot about worldly topics, what the modern day believer is dealing with and how it intersects with our faith. And so sexuality is a huge thing, especially for our generation, generations after us. A lot of people have questions about sex. If you were familiar with my testimony, I was a virgin when I got married, but still had a lot of questions about sex that went unanswered because that was the time that we lived in. But this generation today is totally different. They have a lot of questions about sex and they don't mind asking the leaders. And when the leaders of the church don't know, they turn to YouTube and everything else. And so we want to be a platform where people can ask questions, find out information. And so that is why we are here. And we are talking about why is sexual sin such a bad idea? I kind of want to put some context around it. When we think about sexual sin, what are we talking about? Are we talking about just intercourse, or when we're thinking about sexual immorality, what are we talking about?
It's on the lines of, because the way that it was presented to me was on the lines of immorality. Like, why do we say it's immoral, because that's such a broad, thing. So they, because I actually was on a Clubhouse app when it first came out. And I remember the big conversation was a lot of Christians were on there. It was a Christian Clubhouse room that I was in, and they were saying that they didn't believe that fornication was a sin. They think because Paul and Jesus didn't say it, and God, it didn't come from God. It was a rule inspired by Paul. They were saying that, it wasn't a sin and that it's based on your personal convictions with God. That's what they say. So yeah, that's what the conversation came. I'm gonna let you go, Pastor Brown. Go ahead.
No, so they, that's one of my favorite terms. I use they. I love that. They. When you find out who this they is, please let me know, please. And so as people really believe that fornication is not a sin because they feel like, so I guess Paul wasn't an apostle, he wasn't a man of God, so we can just selectively choose what we want to choose out the Bible to obey. Well, well, I could have sworn Jesus said, I didn't come to do away with the law, but I came that the law might be fulfilled. Then he said, I come in the volume of the book. So that means the entire book that's from Genesis all the way to Revelation. So that's called being selective because you want to justify your behavior. That's what that's about. But the number one reason why anytime you have with a sexual relationship without marriage is there's pretty much everything that can happen is negative, except for maybe one or two things, because you open yourself up to diseases. You open yourself up also to unwanted pregnancies. You open yourself up also to all sorts of different spirits, because I tell people, one thing people don't understand is, the spirits that are on the earth now are 2,000, 3,000 years old. So a lot of times we don't understand is that a lot of people aren't even emotionally ready for sex. because sex is more of we think it's a physical act, it's more of an emotional act than it is a physical act. And so for someone to sit there and say that sex is, oh, it's okay to have sex. I'm gonna tell you what I told the church yesterday when I was closing. Just because you try on a pair of shoes, just because you want to try on every pair of shoes don't mean you should. You can't try on every pair of shoes. Some shoes, you just got to believe that God give you that. I trust me, I'm gonna say this, and y'all may not like it, but pray for Pastor. I promise you, everything will fit where it's supposed to be. Everything will work. But having sex before marriage, I promise, if I could do it over, I would have done it over. I would have waited. I actually would have waited. I wish I would not have. Lord, I ain't gonna say that. I'll leave that alone because I don't want, but I wish I would have waited. I wish I would have been more controlled in my behavior, because it opened a door for me that I wasn't really ready for. Because once you start going down that path, it is almost impossible to stop. It takes God to get you to stop and to don't pursue that same behavior. But that's just a lie. That's a blatant lie to my death, because Paul only one talked about it. That's not true. That's not even biblical.
But you know it though, and I'm gonna let Kalana go after this. But I know, being young, and you could probably attest to this because you started in ministry young as well, especially as a young single man in church. A lot of the times I was encouraged by other preachers and other, of my counterparts as well. Hey, they see you dating a girl. Hey, you ain't hit that yet. It was kind of like, that's the backdoor talk. So it was kind of like, well, dog, it might be okay then. And I'm just saying that because I know now, listening to some of the younger preachers, males that's coming up, that's just a running conversation. It's kind of like, it's nothing to it. Just, hey, you hit it, keep it moving. And things like that. And then, even with the women in the church now, we had a conversation one time in the real room, and the women were saying, I don't want to be with a man that was a virgin. And these are Christian women that say this. So it's kind of like, well, and so the conversation was, does it really matter? Is it that big of a deal? Is it not? That's the conversation now.
Go ahead, Kalanda. I'm sorry.
So I want to preface the conversation. I want to answer that person's first question. Just because Paul mentions it and the Lord does not, or Jesus does not mean anything. When we look at the Bible in totality, we see that some things are descriptive and other things are prescriptive. There are things that we absolutely should do according to the Bible. And then although the Bible doesn't say it explicitly, we don't marry rocks. We don't marry couches. We don't, we don't marry inanimate objects, but the Bible didn't have to explicitly tell you that. So when Paul talks about it is better to marry than to burn, that was a prescription for us, because he's telling us, I wish y'all could all just be like me and just serve the Lord. But because you all don't have any self-control over your sexual appetite or your sexual desires, it is better to marry than to burn with passion. And that is our prescription on why marriage is okay only within the bounds of marriage. And so I want us to stop looking at, well, Jesus didn't say that, and we believe, so you'll listen when Paul did this or when he said this, but then this other thing you want to ignore because Jesus didn't say it explicitly. But we believe, like Pastor said, he came through the volume of books. We believe that the scripture is inspired by the Holy Spirit, which is Jesus Christ. So he didn't have to say it explicitly. He wasn't here on earth that long to say everything out of his own mouth. So he used other people. And I think we have to stop using it as a cop-out for why we are disobedient and why we don't have any self-control. I kind of feel like I feel my help a little bit with this.
Tune up. Somebody tune up.
I don't like people make excuses.
He never told you to not to slap your mama, but you don't go slapping your mama. That's called common sense. But I think what we've done is we've all gotten to the point because, and you have to pray for me, this is my soapbox in this season of my life, is because we don't talk about sanctification in the church anymore. That's a cuss word. We don't talk about that anymore. We don't talk to young people and say, you can keep yourself. See, our problem is we always tell our daughters, close your legs and do this. But we never tell our sons, keep it in your pants.
Right.
And see, that's the problem is we keep we keep having this double standard in church. Like the church used to be a time the girl would stand before the church, she got pregnant and Lord, they would sit her down. but the young man, he said he playing the drums or ushering at the door. And so we've always had this double standard, and that's the issue. And that's what I mean when you're saying about, pastors telling young men, preachers telling young men, you hit it yet. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. That's absolutely unacceptable, because we're supposed to be preaching holiness and sanctification. And when you allow that and say that's okay, that's not okay. What happened to being surprised on your wedding night? I mean, good Lord. I mean, nowadays, but we rather push the issue same-sex marriage than we would push, people being holy, living and staying chaste. It's an anomaly now. Oh my God, there's something wrong with you. You super saved, so I think it's ridiculous though that we've gotten this thing and we're undercover with our sexuality and undercover with how we feel, what we're doing, and thinking, then stand in the pulpit and people already know, because she's gonna tell and he's gonna tell.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is very true.
You're right. We are teaching women to be chaste, to be virgins, because no man is going to want to marry a woman who's been with everybody, but then it's okay for women to be with a man who's been with everybody. So you're right. We do have a double standard. Because I used to ask Marcus growing up in church when, they would take the girls, separate you in the youth groups. What are y'all over there talking about? Because we spend a lot of time talking about dating and the biblical way to do it and all this kind of stuff. What were y'all talking about over there? And I from his experience, it doesn't sound like they spent an equal amount of time talking about dating and relationships. And so here you are preparing us for something that you're not even discussing with men. And so then that's a whole nother issue. Now we're marrying men who are not prepared for marriage or to even be in a committed relationship but let me get off my soapbox. Stanley, go ahead.
Soapbox tonight.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
It is the truth. And like I said, being young, you're around it a lot. You get confronted a lot, different. If you're a young single preacher out there, I mean, they can attest to this. You get approached by women and things like that. They come in your inbox, they text you, they pray for me. I need such and such. I got this going on. Then it turns into another thing. So the temptation is definitely there and it's out there. And like I said, I'm not blasting anybody, but I know that when I've had conversations, especially when I was younger, with other, preachers about it, hey man, hey, it is what it is, go for it. So it's kind of like, okay, well, this may be cool for me to do this, but it takes having a disciplined life and following the leading of the Holy Spirit and not falling into those. He's the one that'll help you not to fall into those temptations and things like that. But you can live a life of holiness and sanctification as a young person, even though it's encouraged not to. You still can do it because that's what God wants. That's what God wants. So He'll help you do it. So
right.
That's my little skill situation.
Yeah. So for someone who's listening and they're saying, well, I've already started having sex. How am I supposed to stop? Because, you can't even say once the itch has been scratched that you can't, that's not even the issue. You watch the right movie and, you start getting in your feelings. So it's not even about if you've had sex before. So what do we say to people who saying, look, my hormones are raging, or I'm in this relationship and it's difficult to not take it to the next level? Like Stanley jokes sometimes because they used to tell him to put pin scriptures on their underwear.
Just on your underwear.
So what do we say to people who are struggling with, okay, I want to be holy, I want to be righteous in this area, but I can't stop?
Well, the Bible says, I have to give you paper Bible first. The Bible says, submit to God, resist the devil, and he'll flee from you. So let's just put that down there first. Now, the reality of the situation is that we put ourselves in situations, and this is what I always, and I'm gonna say something. You said something, Pastor Platt, that had me laughing. You're saying young preachers talk about this. I laugh. I'm over here cracking up laughing. I say because it's probably the oldest preachers that have more opportunity than the younger preachers do. Ooh. Because the simple fact is, a lot of times they think just because you're older, they think you're just a regular. They think you're a zaddy. They think you're a zaddy or a sugar daddy. That's what they're trying to do, and I just laugh at them because I think that's the funniest thing in the world to me. And so what I've learned in this walk is that first thing is that if you know that's an area of weakness in your life, why put yourself in a position where your flesh has to make a decision? You're going to fail every time. you are going, I don't care how you can ebo shata baba yourself. You can take a whole gallon of Crisco and pour over your body if you want to oil yourself down. But you have to make sure that you don't put yourself in a position where your flesh makes a decision, because the flesh, well, I know we don't like to talk about, but flesh is soft. It feels good. And just so y'all know, when God did something, he did that thing when he made a woman. Straight up. He did that. When he did that, he did that. He did it real good. And so the issue seems to be is that when you put yourself in a position where your flesh have to make a decision, you're going to fail. You know, going over to his house, talking about you're gonna watch Netflix and chill. That's not a good vibe. That's just me. That's not a good choice. You saying that, you know, I'm just gonna come over to your apartment and you know, it's 12:30. That's not good. I'm just telling you, these are situations that you put yourself in. And this situation, well, come pray for me. No, I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you through Zoom. And then even Zoom, you got to be careful, because the things that can be seen on Zoom, good God Almighty, will make you leave Zoom and go over to the house. So you have to make sure. Joseph said something, Joseph said something that blessed me. And I tell the church this, is that I would not do this thing. Stop saying you don't sin or you don't do this stuff because, you know, like for instance, men say all the time, I'm not going to do this because I love my wife. I do this because I love. No, Joseph said, I wouldn't do this thing against and sin against God. You have to keep God at the forefront. You have to make, if he's not the most important thing, and I get it, I'm telling you, I know, and that text says also, you know, better to marry not to burn. It means burn in hell, but it also means to burn with lust and desire. And I think the thing we've got to teach our young people is you got to recommit yourself to God. That's first and foremost. You have to be recommitted to God, because there is no way that you cannot fulfill the lust of the flesh. He said, but if you're tempted, he said he'll give you a way of escape. So I think the first thing is that we have to make sure we don't put ourselves in a position where our flesh has to make a decision. That's the most important thing. And stay committed, make a commitment to God, make a commitment to yourself that you deserve better than this. Because most of the time, the guy's not fully committed. He's not. He'll say, I love you. He'll say, you know, he'll text you in the morning, good morning, sweetie, and all that wonderful stuff. But at the end of the day, what is he about? What does he really want? I mean, and truth be told, is he really your husband? Is he really gonna be, I mean, really, you want to be your baby daddy. Oh, that's different. Ooh, if that's your plan, then that's different. But if you're looking for a husband, then why in the world would you're better than that? To me, I teach young women that all the time, you're better than that. You're much better. So I think the thing that we should start teaching them is that don't put yourself in a position where your flesh can make a decision. No young man, no older man, no single man, if he is in ministry, should be alone with any young female. That's a recipe for disaster. That you're gonna crash and burn. You'll be on the altar Sunday.
What does Bishop say? Don't ever make a decision when you're too lonely, too hungry,
too broke, too.
Yep.
Yeah. I went through the twos too. I went through them today myself. Like, yeah, that is true.
Too lonely, too hungry. And I was talking to somebody about that today. Those moments of vulnerability is when the enemy speaks the loudest to you. And the Bible does promise that there is always a way of escape. But when you put yourself in a situation where you are weak or you're vulnerable, then you don't have the strength to endure, then that does cause the enemy to speak louder. And I want to like go over some definitions, because I'm not telling people to be celibate. And I don't like when people say I'm celibate, because I think that is for people who take a vow of whatever the word is called, and they vow to never have sex because their body belongs to the Lord.
Oh, so you take chastity. Oh, that's what you're doing.
Yeah. We want you to be abstinent. That means waiting until marriage. So y'all start telling people that, you know, that you're taking a vow of chastity or whatever. We're encouraging you to be abstinent until you are married. And the reason why, like you said, Pastor, when you do become intimate, and I know we don't like to talk about it. I've heard people say soul ties isn't a real thing or nothing like that. But they don't think soul ties are real, but I say, yeah, okay, I'm gonna let you go. What you want to say?
No, I'm laughing because when you said that, I was talking to someone about soul ties day before yesterday. And I was telling them that a real soul tie actually feels like you're going through drug withdrawals. When you're trying to break away from a soul tie, a real soul tie, it is actually like you're going through a withdrawal, a physical withdrawal, because A soul tie is based upon one thing only, and that's a wrong agreement. That's it. It's not based on anything else. You could be praying and the prayer be a wrong agreement in prayer, and you can have a soul tie with a person. A person can bring you some flowers. A person can send you a card, and that person don't have to be your wife. But guess what? I promise you, do you have to say soul ties are real? They are real. They and I promise you, I haven't been a person that experienced them in my life. You don't want them. And for people to sit there and say that's crazy to me. And can I say something? The issue that for me that's perplexing is that the church is growing more and more silent about these kind of issues, and the world is getting louder and louder.
Yeah.
And what happens is distorting actually the view of marriage, it's distorting the view of sexuality, it's distorting the view of what God intended. And the Lord said this to me, every generation that gets farther and farther from me, because he said in the book of Proverbs, there's a generation that's not going to praise me. And we have a generation that doesn't want to live holy. We have a generation that don't want the God we serve, because what we've done, we put God in absolutes. And we cannot make God absolute. I mean, absolute is that we got this, we throw people away when they make a mistake, and we don't give them an opportunity to come back from what they do. And we've got young people that want to live holy. We have young people that really want to, like you say, abstain from sex, abstain from, and let me help you out. Intercourse, there's more to sex than just intercourse. So, and you've got young people that want to, but our issue is that they can't seem to, they don't know how, because we're not honest in the church. We're not honest about our struggles. We're not, this is a term my wife and I use for marriage counseling. We don't give our young people a soft place to land. We don't tell them that, yeah, you messed up, but guess what? We've been there before, and this is how here's the blueprint for how I made it through this. And so I just think that we've got to do better than what we're doing, because I do believe there's young people that want to live holy, but there's young people that literally are in our churches, leaving the church and going home and having sex. And we're under the auspice of like this, but we're like, oh, you got a purpose and a destiny. God's got a plan for your life. God's called you for something great. There's a business in you. That's not what God called us for. God said, be ye holy. He said, none about be ye purposeful. He said, be ye holy, for I am holy. And so we've got to start teaching our young people that you can live holy and be young. Maybe I'm just old. That's it. I just realized. That's it.
That's another topic we need to do, Stanley, because you're right, Pastor, that there was more focus on living purposefully in these days and setting up the business that you are telling people God has called you to do, or using your gifts to grow your fame or whatever. And nobody's talking about what it means to be holy and righteous, which is our first calling, is to be separated, to be righteous. So you're right.
But you can don't worry about it. You get to your purpose. You just bust hell wide open when you get there. Don't worry about it. Just get to your purpose. God has a plan and a purpose for your life, because the Bible says he purposed me. Yes, he did. He did. But you're going to bust hell wide open with your purposeful self.
I have another question. Somebody inboxed me this. That's why I kept flipping back. They didn't want to ask it in the comments. But the question was, what if you were introduced what if you were introduced to sexual morality against your will? Like, what if it was a situation where you were a child and you were abused, or you were an adult and you were forced, and that created, how do you overcome that?
Well, for me, having been a person that experienced this, has been sexually abused twice as a kid. What I've learned over the years, first thing it does, it really truly distorts your view of sexuality. Because you're attributed to something that's negative, you're attributed to something that's painful, you're attributed to something that's based upon, you think that becomes, if you're not careful, that becomes what you perceive as your value. And so what you have to do is, first thing is, I always tell people, I'm big on truth. Acknowledge the damage that it caused. Acknowledge the fact that it hurt. Acknowledge that it wasn't right. Acknowledge that it wasn't fair. And you're not gonna like what I'm gonna say, but I just teach this, and I believe this. I have a book on my bookshelf about it. Forgive God for allowing it to happen, because we like to be cute and say, well, it doesn't bother you. You're a liar. It does bother you. And what I'm saying is, forgive God, even though God has not done anything that deserves forgiveness. Let's make sure we establish that. But forgive God, then forgive yourself. Then from there, you've got to start on a journey from healing. I would recommend for that person that they get counseling. I really believe that. I think we've got to get rid of this stigma, especially in the African-American community, that there's a stigma with taking. I would recommend this person get counseling. And I'm not talking from the church. I mean, because there are Christian counselors outside of the church. I would recommend that they get counseling. And I believe that that'll be the beginning of their journey to healing, because God can heal them. But what I can tell you is abuse leaves your soul damaged. Whether people like to agree with it or not, it leaves an imprint on your soul. And what the devil has always tried to do is, I tell people, is he likes to bring an incident or a painful circumstance that happens to you as a child, that he doesn't have to speak to you, that circumstance will speak to you for the rest of your life. And you'll think it's the devil, but it's actually that circumstance, that situation. Because what was happening in the church now, we have so much brokenness in the church, and we don't deal with the brokenness, and we wonder why we've got people making mistakes and making bad choices and falling. I'm talking in leadership position now. And what we find ourselves doing is like, what is this about? It's because I would recommend for that person, let the healing begin. I would strongly recommend for them to seek counseling, personal counseling, individual counseling, and you'll find out in the long run, because trust me, I did about 10 years of it. It'll help them in the long run. That would be my suggestion for them.
That's good.
That's good. Yeah, I see a lot of hearts and likes. So I think you helped a lot of
Go
people.
get some help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baby, let me tell you something. You can read that Bible all day long. You can read that Bible. You can speak in tongues all day long. But I'm telling you, when you're alone, the loudest voice in your head becomes your voice. You begin to question everything about you, the individual, you, the person. And then it took me years to find value in my life. Years. And I don't want that for anybody. I'm 55 years old. I'm double nickels now. But I wish I could have told my young self, sir, if you would have just went and got you some counseling earlier in your early 20s, some of the choices, decisions, some of the beds I ended up in, some of the places I ended up in, I would not have ended up in. And I hate to tell you all this, but the church wasn't giving me nothing I needed at that time. They weren't giving me what I needed. They were just, we just ate. Not and shouted down the church and then danced in the church, but then I'm going back and still struggling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And Lady Brown is making a great point. She said brokenness draws brokenness. Ooh. And so when we are broken, we do attract what we are. And so then you're dealing with people you need to be fixed, and you're dealing with people who need to be fixed, and you're in a relationship with somebody who needs fixing, and y'all are just, hurting each other. It's a doomed relationship because you both are broken. So I'm glad you spoke to that, Pastor. Thank you for your transparency, because a lot of hearts, a lot of lights, a lot of people are saying that they have gone to seek professional counseling. And I know we can't always go to our pastor. I think it's a maturity that lets us know that pastor can't always help us in every area, that I do have to go outside to get counseling in specific areas. And some people saying for some reason counseling is a taboo topic. And I think y'all need to know, we need Jesus, and we need somebody to talk to.
Well, the Bible
and therapy.
Don't the Bible say in a multitude of counselors there's safety? He didn't say which counselors. He just said there's a multitude of counselors. And I think the church has got to get to the point where, as pastors, first of all, let's be truthful. Some of the pastors need to be in counseling. Yeah. So how you gonna sit here talk about you need to counsel somebody? Sir, you're broken your darn self. You need to, matter of fact, why don't you make your appointment with my counselor? My counselor might do you some good. That's just me. I could be wrong, As Bishop would say, Lord, please, Lord, please, Lord, please. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
I was telling a friend of mine this weekend, I was telling her, she was telling me this, I said, you know what? I said, you need to go to a therapist. I said, I'll even go with you as a support. She's like, you serious? I say, yes, because you got some issues you need to work out.
And I think that's mature of you, Stanley, to be in a friendship and to be able to say, I'm not equipped to help you go through this and then reach the conclusion that you want to reach. You need some additional help, some professional help.
I got a master's degree in counseling. That's what my master's degree in. And baby, I read that book sometime and go back and read it. I'd be like, man, let me tell you, because as a pastor, I can't officially counsel somebody in that capacity because I have to keep both of them separate. Yeah. But let me tell you, we need some counseling in the church.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question. What about people that are single in ministry that were married prior and that are still trying to, you were married before, for X amount of years. So that was okay because you're married. Now you're single, and you may be still in ministry, or you just may be trying to, go on with your life. How do you, I don't want to say suppress it, but how do you manage it moving forward after? Because like nowadays, divorce is just as common as marriage nowadays. So, how do you keep that under control when you're used to that being a constant thing of your life?
Well, first thing you have to do is, I tell everybody, being married and then getting divorced is a challenge, and that goes without saying. But I'm gonna go back to what I always say is, you're gonna have to be committed to your walk with God. And it's gonna come down to, I always tell people, remember the relationship you just came out of and the cost and what it cost you. If you go back and remember what it cost you, you'll find out that, and I'll be honest with you, like I was telling a friend of mine, this is the truth. I said, sir, at our age, you're supposed to try to go out there now. The game totally changed now. You go out there now, bro, they done stole your car. You on Facebook and Instagram. They got you on Snapchat. You on TikTok. I say, brother, you on everything. Ain't no more MySpace and pagers. I said, sir, take your old crusty self out there if you want to. They're going to make you look bad. And so I would say to the person that's divorced is, be patient with yourself. Now, people don't like this answer. I'm saying to you, put yourself in a position where that you won't make a decision like that. But what I'm saying is, be patient with yourself. Give yourself a chance. Give yourself a chance to heal. Give yourself some time. Stay away. I mean, you have to really basically segregate yourself from people, because during that time you're vulnerable anyway.
Yeah.
You're in a position of in a sensitive state. You may go through and then you have to deal with being lonely. You have to deal with the urges and desires that come up. So I would say to you, give yourself some space first. Give you some space. Get away from everybody else. Definitely don't jump back in another relationship. And I promise you this, take it slow. Please take it slow, because if you don't, you're going to find yourself getting your second divorce. Because oftentimes, I tell people is, most of the time, anything we go through that's traumatic, it leaves a wound. Yeah. And we have to take time out to allow God to heal that. So I would tell you to take some time. Don't beat yourself up. Don't rush yourself. And definitely do not get another relationship right away.
That's good, Pastor, because a lot of people do think that getting over the last one is by getting into a relationship with the next person, and
that never works.
We don't give ourselves time to heal. And I also would say, you have to grieve the loss of that relationship, and the plans you had, the things you dreamed about together, that is a loss, and you have to treat it as such. And like you said, give yourself some time. What'd you say?
It's a death.
Oh yeah,
it's death.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question, and I don't know how we want to in the context, but is intimacy before marriage? So I know a lot of people consider intimacy like sex, but in this instance, I don't think intimacy means sex, like intercourse, but other sexual acts before marriage.
Oh, if it's more than holding hands or a kiss, you can keep all the rest of it is just wrong. I'm gonna put, let's not even sit there and play. Let's play with words. Let's not sit here and play. So
we won't cross it. They just want to. That's the thing. You got to walk the line instead of cross. They feel like if we walk in the line and not crossing it, is good.
Right.
So what my question to you is, how are we walking it? Are we walking it holding hands? Are we walking it putting our mouths on places we should?
So like a intimate act perhaps could be like taking a shower together. But
that's a negative. No. No, that's not. See, hold up. See, this is the kind of stuff that is befuddling to me. You're sitting here saying that you want to live a life of righteousness.
That's what they say, yeah.
But you're saying you want to know if it's okay to take a shower. So if something just something just fall in place. Well, we didn't intend to do it. We just actually fell into sex in the shower naked, and that wasn't our intent. I'm gonna need y'all to dial that down. That's called stuck on stupid. let's not do that. Now, if you're gonna hold hands, hold hands. I have no problem with that. You want to give a little kiss? Ain't no problem with that. Once you go past all that, grabbing and touching and rubbing, you have now crossed the line. Now, the shower, that's called married. That's I don't know, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just old fashioned. Really, you talk about taking a shower and is that okay? No, that's not okay. That's
some people are saying, what about?
Oh, you're taking a shower with your clothes on. That's right. Yes, you can.
Well, I've seen it where they said, well, they let the person sleep in their bed, but they didn't do anything. They just. I've heard that before. We just, I spent the night or whatever.
So my question is, let me say this to you. Let me say this to you. You're setting yourself up to fail. Because if you sleep at night and somebody throw a leg across you, and I'm telling them across your mind, I'm just saying, and say you have not been with a person for months or weeks, you're going to fail. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying, don't put yourself, every man is tempted when he's drawn away of his own lust and enticed. All right, let's put it this way. I'm just telling you, I would not recommend it. I would not recommend it, because that right there is putting yourself in a position where you're going to fail. I would not recommend it. I wouldn't. I would say no.
That's good.
See, Pastor Brown, you're a rare breed. Right now, you're considered a rare breed type pastor, because, like I said, the conversations lately has been, it's okay, and then that's why we hear all these scandals with, these well-known preachers that we hear about, because that's what the conversation has been. It's okay. It's okay. God know your heart. You're human. You're going to fall and this and that, but it's nothing to show people how they don't have to fall into it.
Right.
It's just, if you fall, you fall. His grace is sufficient. Repent and keep it moving.
You know what blows my mind, Pastor Platt? The same grace that you're going to ask God for to forgive you. The same grace when you do it, you say, God, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. It's the same grace on the front end you can use not to do it. Exact same grace. The same grace that you're going to use to say, Lord, I'm sorry, is the same grace that Paul said, I besought the Lord thrice to take this thing from me. But he said, my grace is sufficient. God will give you the grace on the front end so you won't have to use the grace on the back end. And our problem is that I have a lot of friends that are pastors, and I have a lot of friends that confide in me in pastors. They really tell me a lot of things that that everyone probably that were disqualified from pastors. But the issue that I found out is that we don't give people a place to be vulnerable in the church. Because if a pastor stand up and say, whoa, Lord, that sister over there on that third row, she's so fine, boy. I'm struggling, y'all pray for me. We would run them out the church. We don't create an environment where people can be vulnerable, where young people can come up to you and say, listen, now the young men in our church come talk to me and they're honest with me, because I'm not going to judge them. Because first thing I tell them is don't do it. Don't do it. Please do not do it. First of all, you shouldn't be messing with the sisters in the church anyway. That's a whole different subject. But I tell them don't do it. And the thing is that we're empowering people to live unholy. We've gotten to the point where, like you say, a just man falls 7 times and rise back up again. Yeah, but do you really want to keep falling at the same spot every season, every year, every month? It comes a time you're going to shake yourself one day, and you, like Samson, and you're going to find out that God's not there. One day we're going to shake ourselves and not going to realize that, you keep playing. The Bible said they ate and rose up to play. That's the children of Israel did. I just think that we have to start teaching, and we've got to have young people in the earth echoing this. It's got to be the young people echoing this, because you all have more influence than I have influence, that I'm standing on a pulpit. You all have the ability to change the hearts and minds of young people. And then because then the people that want to do wrong going to say this, oh, y'all so spiritual. Y'all so super spiritual. Lord have mercy, y'all so spiritual. No, I'm so spiritual because you just shallow. I'm deep because you're shallow. You don't have a clue. So what I say to you is we've got to have young people like you all that are actually standing and screaming and yelling and say, yeah, you can live holy, and give voice to their struggle. We shouldn't run because a young person say, listen, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with homosexuality. I'm struggling with lesbianism. I'm struggling with fornication. And we in the church shouldn't automatically run you down to the altar and have you call Jesus 75 times and slick oil on you. That's not, don't get me wrong, that served its purpose, but we need to give voice to it, because then you realize you're not abnormal. These, do y'all know God did give us sexual desire? I just want y'all to, he gave that. That's natural. That it's natural for a man to look at a woman and say, Lord, she's fine. It's natural for a woman to look at a man and say, he's a very good looking brother. That's normal. But we made it in the church like, and I told the church, everybody in the church, nobody want to talk about sex, but everybody having it.
They show a lot of
most kids.
Right after church.
You go home, Lord help me. First lady, I love you, but forgive me. Both my kids was conceived on a Sunday. Y'all pray for Pastor. She probably gonna speak to me.
Well,
again. It is.
It was on the Lord's Day.
You see, he blesses on Sunday. He blesses on Sunday. He blesses on Sunday. He blesses on Sunday. Y'all see, y'all missed that. He blesses on Sunday. Y'all be surprised how many kids are conceived right after a good sermon.
My God.
I'm just saying.
I got a question for another single question. In that both of you all are married. I know a lot of people, growing up in church, they used to press the issue. You need her to get married. You need her to get married. And I think a lot of times they were saying that because they didn't want you to be out here fornicating and running wild. So they would encourage you to get married so you wouldn't have to do all of that. So the question is, does marriage solve that, help you manage that part of it?
No.
Not at all.
Marriage amplifies your issues. It does not soothe them, resolve them. It is personal. It is individual work, because you can get married and say you have a high sex drive and your partner does not. It doesn't change the fact that you have a high sex drive, and now that you're married doesn't mean anything. So if we don't learn to bring our bodies into subjection, and even, I'm glad we're talking about this, because even as a married woman, I still have to practice self-control, because there are times when I go out of town and I'm without my husband. And so if I don't have self-control, then that means any Tom, Dick, or Harry, I can be pushing up on. Probably should have said that name, but still, like you have to practice.
No pun intended. I understand.
No pun intended. But you have to practice self-control even as a married person. It's not just sexual immorality is not just a sin for singles. As married people, we can also succumb to this as well if we're not careful.
Because I see it. People say, well, I'm gonna get married because we don't want to be we don't want to have immorality, so let's get married.
Yeah, I've heard people say that too.
And what you tell them is, when they tell you that, you say, and let me know how your divorce go. Because that's the truth. You get married for, how many people got married in the church because it's better to marry than to burn. And people got married, then all of a sudden they both immature. They both are broken. He's abusive. She's to the point where she's cheating, and all this stuff's going on. And but then we say that's not God's blueprint. That's not God's intent. God does not want us. That's not the way He wants it to go. Our problem is we just shoving people to get together and get married. Let me tell y'all something, baby. You can be blissfully single and have a full life.
Yes.
I don't know where we got this narrative where you've got to be married. You got to be married to have sex. I can't say what I want to, because I will never be on the air again. But you can be blissfully single. You don't have to be married. You can have a full life. I don't understand it. I enjoy being married. I thank God for my wife. I do. I thank God for her. She is by far my best friend. I can talk to my wife about any of this stuff we talking about. I can talk to her about it, and she's not going to judge me. She won't. She'll just be like, I'm praying for you, preacher. And it gives release to it. But for tomorrow, people get married. That's the worst thing in the world. If you don't get married for love, and if God has not ordained it, I'll see it. You'll be seeing Pastor. We'll be counseling you. You'll be seeing me. We'll put you on the schedule.
For counseling, yeah, that's true. That's good. I seen one person ask earlier, what if you don't have any interest in being married? I guess, where does that leave you regarding sex?
Oh, well, I got news for you. You're going to be lonely. Better get you a puppy or a dog, because if you're trying to live holy, you can't, let's be honest, if you're really trying to live holy and live a life of righteousness, righteousness before God, you can have a full life and enjoy yourself, go travel, you can go meet new people, you can date people, you can have fun, you can still do those things and be holy. I don't know why we got this thing where people act like because you're single, they act like you're missing out. They want to marry you off. I'm the poor Stanley. God bless you. I know they've been trying to get you married for the last 10 years.
I know.
And everybody say you need a good woman. But a lot of times people don't understand is, theologians don't know if Paul was or was not married. No one knows for sure. But if you look at it, Paul accomplished a great deal in his lifetime. That people don't know if he was married. People have no idea. But what I tell people, I wouldn't rush to get married just because because can I tell you something we don't talk about? God will kill that if you ask him to. Now, I don't mean kill it. He will take it away from you because you might need it when you get married, but he'll teach you how to suppress it. He'll put you in a position where he'll have you focus your energy in ministry. He'll have you focus your energy into a point that you don't even want to be bothered with a man or a woman. You'll be like, God, I thank you. And then this person show up in your life, you'll be like, I don't want to be bothered with you. But then God says, that's your spouse. So I think you can live a full life. Don't sell yourself short. I mean, because you're not missing, if you never experienced it, you're not missing anything.
True.
You're not.
Yeah. I think society does paint the picture that in order to build, to have this boss life together, you have to do it as a married couple. But there are a lot of singles who are successful and thriving and prosperous just as being single. And like marriage is not contrary to like what is taught sometimes in church. Marriage is not like the ultimate goal, and singleness is not a curse. There are people who have been ordained to be single. Like there are people I know who don't want to be married. They enjoy their single life just that much that they don't want to be married, and they are more fruitful and prosperous and purposeful than married people who are together. So I think we have to get that out of our heads that being single is a curse. And I think we'll stop trying to marry people like Stanley off and trust that, okay, so we believe that Stanley, hears the Lord when he's speaking, but the Lord not talking to Stanley about his wife. So like he missing all that.
Yeah, I don't think he was supporting them. I don't think he is.
So he only give you a word, but he don't talk to you about your.
Well, and can I say something too? One thing we've got to be very careful with too. We think just because a man or a woman is single, that means that they're gay. Okay, let me help y'all out.
Help the people.
Let me help y'all out. There are plenty of men and women. First of all, the Bible even says, Paul said, I'd rather you be single.
Right.
Paul said, I would rather you be single because you can devote more time to God. He said, you don't have to worry about trying to take care of your wife, your house, your kids, and all those things that you become encumbered with. So first of all, remember that's God prefers single. Truth be told, he's like, listen, if you're single, that's cool because you got me. I'm good. I'm all you need. But then just because this person's single don't mean they're gay. A man single and he's 30 or 31, 32, he's not gay. Or a woman that's never been married. Everybody, I'm serious. In the church, you start looking at them side eye like, oh yeah. Maybe they realize and see, oh, you unhappy married folks.
Right.
They don't want any of that.
I stay away from that. That's good. That's good.
Exactly. But I'm gonna say this because I know we got to wrap up. But I told one of my preacher's friends, man, you gotta get married. And I told him, I said, well, dude, how are you gonna encourage me to get married? This is one of my preacher friends. Well, preacher friend, I mean, we ain't close friends. We just know each other in church. But I was like, but we had that kind of relationship where we cool. So I was like, but man, how you gonna tell me to get married? But you always complain about your wife. You always entertaining other outside relationships. So if that's your presentation of marriage to me, then why would I want that? I think I'm better off, being single, enjoying my life, doing that. So I just think we just got to be mindful of that, especially as a single when you're trying to encourage somebody. Now, I do desire to be married one day, but at this moment in my life, I'm just enjoying every minute that God gives me, being single. But I told him that, like, you're doing worse than I am because you breaking covenants. So,
oh Jesus.
Yeah, whoever he is, let me stretch my hand on the screen now. Father, touch whoever this heathen is. Touch him.
It's wild out here in these streets, Pastor Brown. It's wild out here. It's wild.
I have. Trust me. I have pastors that are friends of mine that I know that have, like I said, they're very honest with me about some of their struggles, and I thank God for all of them that I've known for over the years. I've known a lot of them, a few years. I thank God for them being honest with me. But I always tell them the truth, though. Stop it. I just tell them stop it. And a lot of them have gotten out of whatever they were in. They've gotten out of their entanglements. And so we thank God for that. But It's a challenge. It really is a challenge, and there's no absolute. I mean, all we can do is tell people the right way. But then I always tell everybody like this. This is what I tell people: you ain't got to like that. I say, listen, I prefer if you not have sex. I don't want you to. I just wish you would just wait on God and keep yourself and walk with God. This is the problem. This is where we run into a problem. But if you're going to do it,
yeah,
do it the right way. Protect yourself. Be smart about doing it. Now, see, the church don't want that part because all they're going to hear is say, oh, you told them to have sex. No, I did not. I said I prefer. But can I tell you something? These young people are going to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Regardless.
And then you're going to run around and be all embarrassed because in the church, you got a little 16-year-old running around here pregnant. And then everybody's trying to hide it. So, I mean, so all we can do is just try and give them an avenue or give them an opportunity to be honest with them. Let them know, listen, we're here to support you. I prefer if you don't do it, but they're going to do what they want. Because once they turn 18, kids are, I mean, what can you do? You can't, and then if they do it, you can't throw them away.
Yeah. Yeah. This has been so good. They standing there all in the comments about bringing Pastor back. We want him for a part 2.
We're going to get him. We're going to get him. We're going to get him.
Y'all have to tell us a topic that you think would be great for Pastor Brown. You see how he doesn't mind being open and transparent and honest.
They actually follow Pastor Brown's page because on Wednesday nights, him and Sister Brown, they go live and it's really good. Like I tune in on Wednesday nights and they keep it 100. They keep it raw. Like it's really good. It's not the traditional pastor and first lady conversation.
Yeah. Is it on the City of Hope? What, Facebook page? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, they say any topic.
We'll bring them back. We definitely bring them back.
So,
but it's good.
Pastor, tell them where your church is located, times, and
it's at 1656 West Edgewood Avenue, right next to Star Meat Market. You go right on there and get you some chicken, and then come on over to the church and get you a word. It's across the street from the U-Haul. We have service at 12 p.m. We don't have we're not having Bible study probably ever again on a Wednesday. Y'all pray for Pastor. The Lord delivered us from that. And so we do have service on Wednesday at 7:00 on Facebook. We do. You can join us. I just believe that what God has put with me and my wife in the earth is the fact is that we're just here to just bring. My job is to bring deliverance to God's people. That's my responsibility. And so I have to live what I preach. So, if you ever see me out with some of the 23-year-old, make sure y'all ask first, because the odds are it won't be nobody I know. Because I'm telling you, you never catch me alone like that. I don't roll like that. I try to live what I preach. I try to live holy. So yeah, I try to live what I preach. Pray for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
You all are welcome. Thank you all for having me. I mean that sincerely. I love both of you. I watch you all. I lay in the bed. I say, I love y'all because usually Pastor is knocked out sleep because I get up in the morning at 4 a.m. So I love y'all. I love you all. And then the Lord woke me up this morning at 2:18 to pray. So, and I haven't been to bed since. So I want y'all to know I love the two of you and I support you because baby, I'm like, okay. And I know him. I know he's going to wake me up at some crazy time in the morning. And so I thank God for all of you. I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much. Hopefully I didn't embarrass you all. Love you all.
No, this is the real room. We like it. We like it like that.
I love you all. Thank you. And I appreciate you. Thank you.
Stanley, you got any remarks before you give benediction?
No, I don't. And I'm not giving a benediction. You are.
I'm not giving benediction either. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Don't forget to, what'd you say?
You got to tell them next week's topic.
Yeah. Don't forget to tune in next week. Next week, we have Pastor Vincent Edwards joining us as we continue our Ask the Pastor series. We're going to talk about the rapture in end times. Because it's a lot of believers, but we don't think about heaven and hell anymore. And so I want to make sure that everybody knows hell is real. And if you don't know the Lord to be your savior, in hell, you're going to lift up your eyes.
Oh, that's low, folks.
Yeah.
And tell them, you know what? Instead of telling them to read the book of Revelations, tell them to read Matthew, the 24th chapter. That'll help them out because we're not in Revelations yet. We're in Matthew, the 24th chapter. Just in case you want to know. Just free, won't cost you nothing.
Okay.
That's everybody's work now.
Some free game. So if you have any questions, you can DM us. You can DM the Real Room or us separately, and we can go ahead and prep Pastor Edwards with some questions. But I'm excited. Don't forget to join us next week at 9 p.m. Everybody, have a good night.
Peace.
Be blessed.